I have had so much fun making these organza flowers. They are pretty easy to make, and the technique is, it's pretty relaxing to do, to burn the edges. Actually, they're not burned, they're melted, and I will show you how to do that. But the results are just stunning, and you really get a lot of people asking you how you made these when you do this. So I just really enjoyed this, and I wanted to make a video so that you too could feel comfortable making these flowers. Because every little girl and every woman needs a flower like this. So let's talk about materials that you're going to need. First of all, you're going to need organza. I've also used tulle with success, but I have not tried other fabrics. The reason why you need organza or tulle is because you need a synthetic fabric that will melt. And if you experiment with other fabrics, I'd love to hear your results. I have not. So anyway, I have organza right here. You're also going to need some type of scissors to cut it out. You will need needle and thread to sew the button, which you're going to need right here, just one button per flower. Or you could have a couple of different beads or something like that if you'd like to sew that together. You'll also need a little scrap of felt. Now this, I just freehand cut this into a circle. Now this is what I use to attach at the bottom of my flowers. Oops, let me get one out there. This is what I use. It's a barrette, and one of those that opens. I like this kind because, number one, when it closes, it stays shut and it doesn't, slip where you put it. I also have experimented just a little bit with putting this onto a headband, a pretty thin headband, and it will stay. So my flowers like this is going to be on my daughter's sash for my brother's wedding coming up. And so like a flower like this, you can also put on a headband later. So that's why I like this one. Although you can find all kinds of different clips at your fabric store and experiment with those. Now obviously you're going to need some type of flame. I like to use this. I like to use a tea light with one of these mini, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's one of the mini canning jars, the small ones, pint size. Because I like to have a lot of room. This gives me about 2 to 3 inches between the flame and the lid, and I like that extra room. You can use other candles if you'd like that have less room between the flame and the lid, but you do want a candle that has some type of lid, and it's not just exposed flame, because I think it would be very difficult to judge the difference judge the distance between your organza and the flame if you have an open flame, like one of the pillar flames or something like that. So this is what I like to use. Now I always have with me a big bowl of water when I'm working. I've never had to use it, but if I ever did, I'd be really happy that I had a bowl of water that I could throw my burning piece of organza into, because I'd rather do that than burn down my house. So you do need to be careful doing this project. I don't want anyone to burn down their houses or apartments or places that they live, because I would be very sad about that. Now the glues that I used Fabri-Tac, and I also used E6000, and I'll show you how I use both of these later. So those are the materials that you're going to need, and now let's get on to the procedure of melting. Now making these flowers is quite easy, and you can see if you look on the side here that this flower is actually made up of a lot of different layers they're actually circles. And I started out with a circle like this, and I snipped the edges, which I'll show you in a second, and then I melted, and that's why the flower petals go up, and that they become dimensional once you melt them. Now when I made this flower here, I have 5 different sizes of circles in here, ranging from, this is a 7-inch wide one, ranging from 7 inches to 6 inches, 5 inches, 4.5 inches, and 3 inches. The smaller the circle, the more difficult it is to melt without burning it or burning your fingers. So I wouldn't go too much smaller, but you can experiment and see what you're comfortable with. So each of these is made up of actually 3 circles of the same size. And I'll talk to you about that when I get into the assembly part. But let's talk about these circles. So this is my 7-inch circle, and you can see it is not perfect. I basically used my circle template as a guide, and what you're going to do is you have your circle right here, and you're going to snip the petals. Now I have found that I like a petal that's about 2 inches for the big guys, and for my little flowers about 1 inch at the widest edge. So this is like 2 inches right here that I'm cutting. And I'm going to cut all the way around. And of course, I'm leaving a nice center here. I don't want to cut all the way through because then my flower wouldn't stay together. And I'm pretty random about it. I don't measure. I just kind of snip. And that's what's so nice about this project, is you don't need to measure too much. So, okay, so you can see that I've got my flower or my circle cut out into petals. So now I'm going to bring my flame in, and of course my water is right here. It's out of sight of the camera, but it's right next to me, so do not worry. And I'm going to take one petal. You want to expose just one petal because you just want to burn one at a time. It gives you more control. And what I do is I pinch towards the center of my circle here, towards the center of the petal, so that you can see that my curve is going the way that I want my flower to curve. So like this curve here is kind of going up this way, and so it will burn the same way. So you can experiment with that. And see, I'm just putting it close to the flame, but not too close because I don't want to catch it on fire. I just want to melt it. And you can see it's now melted. Now this color here that I'm using, this burgundy color, seems to melt into like a darker color here. But the whites and the gold that I use don't seem to do that. So I don't know if it's this organza or if it's this darker color that does that. So I will do this with each petal, and I'm going to do a couple of petals for you. So I'm going to now expose a new petal, and I'm going to pinch it at the center so that it's curving the way I want it to curve when I'm all done. And I'm putting it near the flame. Now it looks like I'm putting it in the flame in the video because I'm upside down here, but I am not. It is above the flame. And then I'm going to do another one. Once again, pinch it towards the center area and put it near the flame and let it melt just a little bit. And you want to be patient with this. If you start to get impatient, you're going to be burning your fingers and burning your petals. Okay, once again, pinching and melting. I am probably about 1 inch to 2 inches away from the flame as I melt. So I'll do it again here. And now be careful also when you are melting, because you don't want to touch the edge that has melted right away. It cools down within a few seconds, but if you touch it right away, you will burn your fingers or your hand. I have done that quite a bit. It's not a bad burn, at least mine haven't been, but still, it doesn't feel good. Okay, see how that's coming along here? And you can see the difference. Let me move this over. The difference between the petals that I've melted and the petals that I have not. You can see that they're adding dimension, and how cool that is. So let me finish this one up here. And there's a little bit of a smell, but not enough that it bothers me. And I'm pregnant, and I have like this super center. So if it doesn't bother me, you'll probably be okay. Although you can, of course, do this in an open area so it's not too stinky. Okay, I've got a couple more petals to go here. 2 more, and then we're done with this one. Now, I like to just kind of do the edges here, like the ends, because I found if I do too far down the petal that I burn it like right here, and then the petal falls off. I have done that quite a few times. So I basically just kind of do the edges. And you can see that it makes them nice and curved. Okay, so I just finished melting my edges here. Whoop, let's turn it over. And because I pinched each of the petals the same way, each of the petals is curved after it's melted the same way. So isn't that neat? Now, let's get into assembly. Okay, now let's assemble our flower. Let me show you the flower that I finished so you can kind of get an idea of where we're going here. I really like a real full flower. So this flower is made up of 15 different circles. So it's three of the same, okay, 5 different size circles, 3 of each size. So I have my circles here. I've got my 7-inch here and my 6-inch here. I've got a whole pile of different ones that I did. I went a little crazy and I did extras. I thought I counted properly, but obviously I didn't. So I've got these right here. So and also you can see that mine is 2 different colors. So what I did was I took a gold, and then I'm going to move these over so I can have a little bit more room to work. I took a gold and 2 burgundies for each petal size, or each circle size. So there we go. So that's my bottom grouping. And then I'll take my next group, which are my 6-inchers, and put on a burgundy, 2 burgundies, and 1 gold. And I'm trying to get the centers about the same, obviously, so my flower is not completely askew. And then let's see what was next, 6-inch, 7-inch, and then I've got the 5-inch. So I'll put down my 2 burgundies of my 5-inch size, and then my gold. You can see it's getting really puffy. I love it. And then my next size was 4.5 inches. So I've got my gold is a little funny on my 4.5 inch. I didn't cut my petals very well, but no one will even notice when I'm all done. So I'm not going to stress about that. So I got my 2 burgundies and my gold. And then my littlest size, which is a 3.5 inch, I've got my gold and 2 burgundies. So let's do those. And I decided I was going to put the gold on the top, right next to my button. So that is the flower right there. And then you take your button and you stick it in the center, and you kind of make sure it's all even and nice looking there. It looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to take my needle and thread. As you can see, I've got it here. I just took a piece of thread and folded it in half, and so I've got two threads here. I'm just going to stick my thumb right here in the middle to keep it all together. And I just kind of experiment here and try to find my holes. There we go, I found one. So I'm starting at the bottom and going up. Whoops, pulling that through. And going down to the second hole. My button only has 2 holes. You could do a 4 or a 2-hole button, it doesn't matter. And pulling it through. And then doing one of those square knots so it stays. And this is my very first time through the button, so I will go a couple more times. I just like to attach it the first time so it doesn't all fall apart if I get distracted, which of course would never happen to you. No one ever gets distracted but me when I'm doing a project, of course. Haha. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to go through my button a couple more times just to secure it. Okay, there we go. I'm going to snip off my threads. You don't have to snip it too close because I am going to be gluing down a piece of felt. So I freehand cut a piece of felt right here, and I'm going to attach it using Fabri-Tac glue. So I'll put the Fabri-Tac glue on the felt, not on the flower, because I think that would be really tough to do without the petals getting all stuck. And I'm going to stick it down like that. Now the reason why I put this fabric, or this felt here, is so that I have a space for my clip to go on, and it has a good spot to be. So what I do when I use these types of clips that look like this, the barrette kind, is I always open it so that I glue it so it's open. Now I do that because I worry that I'll glue it all together and then I won't be able to open it. And also because when you open it, you can see there's like a curve, and I want to make sure that I get the glue so that when it curves, it's not going to just fall off. Now I use the E6000 because this is like the serious glue for serious people, and I figure this is going to make it stay on really well. And I've never had anything that I've glued with E6000 come apart crafty-wise. I don't know what it would be like for home type stuff, but it's a little stinky, so it's going to make your house smell a little bit. Okay, so go ahead and glue that down, and you can see, maybe you can't see, but It's not totally attached yet because it's curved, so I make sure that I put my thumb in the center of the top here and push it down so that the curved part can be also in contact with the felt. So then I let that dry for a few hours, not too long, and then it's all attached, and I have finished my flower. And I'll push that one over, and then this is what it looks like when it's all done. So thank you for watching, and I hope this